Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Well, this is going to be very, very joyful for me, especially because I'm very new at talking about yoga. But I've had the good fortune and a blessing to have a granddaughter now. It's my grandson's wife, Melissa PINI, and she is absolutely beyond belief in many ways, but she is a real yoga expert. She's actually owner and creator of MapGee's Yoga, and she's calling in from Michigan, right outside of Detroit. It's Warren, Michigan. And we're going to have a real little discussion on the beauty of yoga, what it is, because I was telling Melissa that no matter where I go, what doctors, no matter how prominent the doctors are, when they talk about relieving stress, they always say you should go do yoga. So I'm going to ask Melissa, who has hands-on. She does many classes every day in her studio. So, Melissa, think back about people who've never done yoga before. They come in and you show them some things, and then they keep coming back and they come back. What differences have you seen in them, and what do they say after they've been doing this?
So I feel like as an instructor, one of the biggest compliments you can receive is when a student comes in and takes a class, and after they've gone through their practice, they say that they wish they could stay there forever, how calm they feel, how relaxed. Just the whole idea of the mind-body connection has really transformed the way that they think, the way that they feel, and to notice just the stress evaporate from their body, from their mind is just a beautiful thing to witness, and I'm so grateful to be a part of their experience and their time on their mat. It's wonderful.
How do you think that happens, actually? That, we've heard about yoga from centuries and people in India and the Buddhists and all, but so when were you introduced to yoga, and what were your feelings?
So I was introduced to yoga actually quite young. Growing up, I was a bit of an old soul as a child, and I spent a lot of time with the elders in my life. And how I began was with actually the meditation. And I used to do guided visualizations and different body scanning techniques when I was really little. And I felt as if that was a way for me to just eliminate some stress from growing up and just from day-to-day living. And then as I progressed along, I started to delve a little bit more into the asana, which are the postures. I grew up a competitive dancer, and along that time, we used to do all the different postures before our dance routines, and I just knew how good that made me feel, and just to be able to move and feel better in my mind and my body. And then as I got older, it's just become a part of my lifestyle. I use it as a way to stay grounded. It helps me to see more clearly. I'm able to be more optimistic, and it's taught me a lot through the time on my mat, how to use struggles, whether it's in a posture that I'm learning that might be new, or just in anything that might be a bit of a struggle in life, how to use that for growth. And I think for me, that has been the greatest asset to my life.
Yeah, that's very well said. And I'm of course, I was just at a seminar yesterday, and it was a doctor who is board certified in 3 areas, cardiology and let me think what else. It was in internal medicine, and then I think anti-aging. And when people were asking him about stress and how to relieve it, he talked about going and taking a yoga class. Now, Melissa, years ago, doctors never talked about yoga. I mean, anything that was outside of the world of medicine.
Right. I think for a while, it was just, everyone thought it was just, woo-woo and, something that people really didn't talk too much about it. And then as time progressed, I think people started to see the benefits of the breathing and to just focus on the breath. And it allows you to really tune in to notice what it is that you're feeling within the body. And then when you form that connection with your breath, then you're able to really take that into your day-to-day life and notice when you're not breathing, maybe when things are stressful. And then with the time on the mat, you are able to just really tune in and notice. And I think that's the biggest thing that helps a lot of people is just noticing and being aware of what it is that they're feeling and sitting with that. And as a teacher, you just hold space for the students and allow them to see what they're feeling and how to use that feeling to guide the rest of their being.
So actually, we're talking mentally, but we're also talking physically, because I know when you came to my home and we were talking about that how is that physical exercise? It seems like it's so graceful you just lie down on the floor, but that's not true, is it?
No, that's a good point though. So with the physical aspect of it, it really kind of teaches you just how to hold yourself more, how to just notice the different parts of the body and how they're connected and how to move in ways that feel good to stabilize yourself and to stand in your power and feel powerful and strong. And if you think about it from that aspect, it's a great cardiovascular workout as you move through the sun salutations. Very strength building for the body and the mind. It teaches you self-discipline and self-study, which are part of the niyamas, which are, I like to think of those as like the precepts of yoga.
Well, you also talked about different kinds of yoga. It isn't so simple that it's just yoga. There's all different kinds. And, maybe it's a little advanced, but you can maybe give us a very short discussion on that there are different kinds of yoga.
There are. So in the West, we generally, when someone says they practice yoga, they're most likely practicing a style of yoga called hatha yoga, which is very common over here. It's strength building, but it's also very intuitive. There's also a style called Ashtanga yoga, which is the lineage that I'm formed in. That's the type of yoga that I studied, which follows a set sequence for each part of as you go through the process of that style of yoga. There's a firm belief system in the 8 limbs of yoga, which are how you guide the practice, both physically and mentally. There are styles that are restorative, so working more with opening up the body in more gentler ways, using props to release any tension in the body, get into the connective tissue and the fascia in that. There's all sorts of different styles of yoga that a person can choose from to sort of pick the practice that works best for them. So the way that I like to guide my classes when I teach is, you know your body better than anyone else, better than any teacher could. So it's picking the style that works for you, that makes you feel good and strong and able to relieve the stress in the body and the mind,
right,
to move through your practice. Yeah.
So the interesting thing is now you have all ages who come. So you can have young kids, from high school, all the way up to people in their 90s, I guess.
I do, yes.
Well, maybe that's the nice part about this whole, what do we call yoga? We call it an exercise, or what term would you, if someone came from outer space and you talked about yoga, what would you call it?
So I like to say yoga is a practice because it's something that never ends.
Practice, right. And so do most people do yoga every day if they know yoga, or they do it a few times a week? What do you do?
I personally do yoga every day. I feel like I notice a difference in just my life and the way I interact with others and myself on the days that I might not be able to get into a practice. But my practices don't always look like a whole class. So they might be only 10 minutes long, where I might just move intuitively and focus on my breath and just notice the way that I'm feeling, any emotions that might come up. Or if I'm really lucky, I might get on my mat for an hour or so and just go through a sequencing that works with my body, where I'm at on that day. And I think it really varies from person to person.
And you talk about breath. We talk about breathing. Why is that a part of yoga and not just the movements?
So we like to connect our breath with the movements when we move. And by having that focus on the breath, we're able to really tune in to what the body is feeling. So when we start to move through the actual physical postures, the asana, we try to focus on using the breath to guide the movement, so that if we ever lose the breath or that awareness of the breath, then we know that we're not connecting the yoga. So what makes yoga different from other exercises is that connection with the breath. Other than that, we're just doing regular exercise rather than the practice.
I see. So you have to literally teach breathing, I gather.
Do so. The different pranayama techniques I like to incorporate in each of my classes, just to allow people to know different ways that they can breathe. So there's belly breathing is one technique that you can use. There's alternate nostril breathing. There's, once you start to work deeper with the breath, there's a type of breath called ujjayi breath. There's breath of fire. All sorts of different ways to incorporate the breath into the practice.
And tell me about the ratio of men and women. Is this a woman's practice?
It's kind of funny. I actually just had a student the other day. I have quite a few male practitioners at my studio. It seems like in the West here, it is very female dominant. But as I was telling the one student that came in, yoga was actually developed for boys, for men. So it was for little boys. Before they would go to school, they would be all rambunctious and wild with all that energy. So the elders created these different techniques, which was yoga, to help to settle the boys down and calm them. So I think in the Eastern tradition, it's male dominant, but over here in the West, I do believe there's probably more females than there are males, but it's all relative to, I guess, where you practice and maybe the type of style class you take.
Okay, well, that's fair. All right, well, let's just now go into clothing. I mean, do you have to get into one of the yoga pants, and let's say you had a dress on, can you do yoga? I mean, do you have to get on the floor for everything to do with yoga?
No, you don't. So that's actually a really awesome way to think about it. You don't. Yoga can be done as simply as just sitting in a comfortable chair and just maybe bringing a hand to the heart, a hand to the belly, and then just focusing on your breath. That might just be a perfect way to even start the practice.
No, just work on breath, right. But one thing that I think is really, and you can find this on the internet, you go to yoga and you see people doing this, instructors, but somehow you have a studio and people come, and are you doing this privately, or you do with groups, or how does that all work?
I do both. At Matthews, I do have private students that come, and most of my private students come about once a week, and those classes that we do privately are designed all around what that individual student is looking for, what they're looking to gain or to release. And so I create something special just for them, and then that's what we work through in the private sessions. I also do group classes, and the group classes, I generally have about 3 classes a day that I teach, and they all are different. So different styles of yoga, whether it's a practice that might be a little bit more focusing on just the breath, maybe something more mindful with meditation, maybe something a little bit more strength building. So we have quite a few options at MAP Keys to pick from.
I see. Well, you're quite a pro at this, and of course, I want everyone to know that I'm talking with Melissa PINI, and Melissa's the owner and creator of MAP MAP Keys KEYS Yoga, and she's calling in from Michigan. Actually, it's Warren, Michigan. It's outside of Detroit, and she is very, very, let's say, dedicated to doing this. She recently opened her own studio, and she's a glory to behold. I always say that when I meet her, she's so bright and so enthusiastic and so encouraged to do this, and she loves to help people with yoga. This is really important. The one thing that I found out about her recently was that she's a singer, and I was really happy to hear that. So do you ever sing to your yoga class?
I do. Now and then we do different yoga chants and that. So I do, as a musician, I do write my own songs. They're not very yoga related. They're usually more based upon emotions, which I guess is, yoga in its own way. But at the studio, we do a class. It's called Mindfulness and Meditation. And during that class, I will... we have a very gentle practice, and then we'll do like a long guided meditation, and sometimes we chant in that class. So I'll teach the students different yoga opening prayers and closing prayers and that. And it's just a fun way to just bring music into the studio. I love it.
Right. I that must be lovely. People can really then know more about you, because I don't think probably most yoga teachers cannot sing, but you bring a double board here. This is really wonderful. Okay, well, I want to go back to taking people, probably most people, at least women, older women, want to get rid of their belly. So is there a special yoga practice, or we call it a yoga, what do we call the word? A yoga something to do that? You call it a stand or yoga? What's another word for that?
Oh, a different yoga posture?
Yeah,
like
okay, you're a posture, that's what you say. Okay, a yoga posture. So in other words, is there something special for everybody? Let's say someone has legs they want to strengthen, or arms they want to strengthen, or they want to get rid of their belly. Do you have certain things that help with that?
Well, there definitely are different types of yoga postures that you can do to strengthen and build muscle tone in that. I'm a firm believer in just kind of rocking what you have and loving the body that you're in, and then everything else kind of falls into place from there. So I like to always mention to my students, who I love dearly, that the way that they are is perfect. And then it's just to love that part of yourself so much that you want to treat your body with that love and respect. And then everything else kind of follows from there. I do get the questions quite often about, I want to lose weight, or I want to, build this or let go of this. And so a great way, I guess, to build, if you think about the standing postures, the warriors, they're really great at building up the strength in the legs. Our chair pose, that's a great one for the legs and that. I think even just our traditional standing posture, mountain pose or Tadasana, all the other postures will build off of that, in the sense that you have to engage the body. You have to notice, in yoga we have these different locks. We call them the bandhas. And if you engage and draw those bandhas in and up, then you'll start to notice the shoulders will draw down the back more, the heart will lift, and the tailbone will draw down towards the heels, and you almost feel as if you're just taller and stronger. And then when you include the breath into that, it allows the body to start to build that fire and that strength within. We call that our Agni, which is our inner fire. And then once you combine all those different elements, I think people start to notice the power that they have and the strength that they have within. and then everything else kind of builds from that.
Huh. I'm sure when you say that to people, they love you because everybody thinks that they have all these weird parts of their body, right? And you make sure that they know that it's a beautiful body, it's theirs, and don't even think about that, right?
Absolutely. I always tell my students that the special thing about them is that there's no one else that's like them, and that's what makes them special and unique. And I think it's really important that we remember that, because everyone has things about themselves that, they wish they could change or they want to, make better. And I'm a firm believer in always working to make yourself be the best that you can be, but from a place of love and from a place of desire to feel better and just come from that heart, from that place of love. That's the most important, I believe.
Yeah, that's lovely. Well, I wish that I lived, of course, in Michigan, and then I could go to your studio every day. But do people go every day, or do they go a couple of times a week, or what's generally what people in yoga do?
Well, first I have to say you're absolutely amazing. Just, to be here with you today, I have to acknowledge, and I'm absolutely honored to be here and have this conversation with you. It's just, you're amazing in your own right.
Thank you, Melissa. Well, we have a mutual admiration society going here between the two of us.
Absolutely. But to answer your question, I do have some students that will come every day, but usually I always like to offer to start with maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, kind of get into the swing of things and start to notice, because I feel as if a lot of times when someone's first starting the practice, so much comes up on the mat, because it really is a process of just tuning into yourself and really just noticing things about yourself. I think that's a big part of yoga. And a lot of times if a student starts off too hard, too fast, then they tend to burn out. So starting kind of slow and then knowing that it's a lifelong journey. Yoga will meet you where you're at, and it'll be with you forever. You have plenty of time, so take it slow and then just allow your body to progress from there.
Do you have, is it better to do yoga in the morning or at night? Does it matter?
I think that might be a personal preference. I personally like practicing in the morning. I feel like the mind is more at ease in the morning. You're able to really get the most out of your practice first thing in the morning, before a lot of people are householders, so they have other things that they have to do in their life. And I feel like just waking up with the sun and even just working through something like the sun salutations first thing in the morning can really start your day off to just be absolutely great and the best that it can be.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people actually always think about exercise in the morning, but sometimes their schedule isn't such that you have to just take it when you can get it.
Absolutely. Well, and hey, it's nice to wind down at the end of the day with the yoga too.
Yes, I guess you. All right. So let's talk about people, maybe not necessarily older people, but people who are having chronic back problems. You talked a little bit about chair yoga. What's that like?
So at the studio, I do offer a class that is called Gentle Guidance. And in that class, we do a lot of work from the chair. So for my friends that are unable to, or they don't want to get up and down off of the ground, I try to make it very accessible to every person, regardless of where they're at in their practice. And we do a lot of more gentle therapeutic movements in that class, where we start to, coming back to the breath again, we work on the breath, do different meditations and that, and then very gentle movements with opening the shoulders, just noticing the length of the spine. I like to move through the different directions of the spine, which sort of help to get in there and just lubricate the body before we ask it to do anything too crazy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so people really of all ages in all situations could really do this with you. And it sounds like maybe someone like that would be more of a private person because you have to deal with them a little bit more hands-on.
Right. So a lot of the times with the private students that I do have, they will give me like a pretty detailed idea of where they're maybe feeling pain or areas that they need to strengthen or just start to work on a little bit more. And then I'm also a certified personal trainer, so I use a lot of different strength building but gentle techniques at the same time to balance the body.
Mm-hmm. So you have to, that's right. There are a lot of aspects to this that you really have to have an experienced person. And one thing that I told Melissa is that I think what happened to me when I first started is I got into an advanced class and that was stupid. So and that kind of discouraged me. So I told her I was going to start again, but I'm going to find baby class, a beginning class so that I can do this because I want to learn to do it. I know it's important. And when I have a granddaughter that is so smart, I want to be able to get all the help I can, and I'm sure I will do that. So, Melissa, it's been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for calling us, and I hope it's not too cold there, but we'll talk again, and thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to talk to you.
Yes. All right. Have a great day.
All right. Namaste.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.